Big Ten Conference champions in 2014, 19, 20, and 21, correct? He has coached over 32 All-Americans, had 32 All-American honors. He ranked the attendance at UW ranks in the top 5 in attendance annually. They've had 9 straight NCAA Sweet 16 or better and 4 Final Fours. And I welcome up to you the head coach of the national champion UW volleyball team, Kelly Sheffield.
I'll be honest, that doesn't ever get old during that last sentence there. See, I think that one other thing is, Dana Redke being National Player of the Year. That's first time we've had one of those, and it's I look back at the last 3 years that we've been in the Final Four the last 3 years, and excuse me, that the class when that group was coming up as freshmen, coming in and finished 7th in the conference, which was a little bit lower than what the previous few years had been, and just kind of the building that it's kind of taken. One of the things that we talked about afterwards is you don't waltz into what the last 3 years or what this past season was. There's so many sacrifices and decisions along the way that kind of help you build into those great things, or or you're going to be taken off course. I think back when COVID hit, and we had a 4-hour meeting with our seniors. We had a large group of players, and we're sitting there and thinking, all right, what is it that we're going to do? You think back, and there were so many unknowns back then, and here we are trying to operate as a team and try to go forward without getting, this is before vaccinations and things, and how do we operate as a college student without us just dropping like flies and going? What is going to be acceptable? Are you going to go into other people's apartments? Are you going to allow other people to come into your apartment? We had players that had roommates with non-athletes. Well, how do we get them on board into our bubble to be able to go forward? And so are we okay going with going into a salon and getting our hair done? Just all of those types of things that we're just trying to because you're as strong as the weak link in that space. And so, and I think back at, we had 3 players on our team that ended relationships with people they were dating because the person they were dating wanted to operate with a different set of rules than what they did. So they just got rid of meaningful relationships, which kind of, when you're talking about sacrifice and things, these things just don't happen. A little bit later, we had we took that 4-hour meeting. We ended up having a 3.5-hour meeting with the rest of the team a few days later. And I think back to going into COVID testing every single morning, and having to do that twice a day for 3 days a week. So we're getting COVID testing 7 days a week, and then doing twice a day, 3 days a week, getting up, being in there at 6 o'clock in the morning to have our first one 7 days a week. And I think back to the job that our medical teams that help us navigate through, and how amazing that was, how appreciated that was. But none of this happens without them. I have etched in my mind our players that when classes were out of session, how many of them decided to take their online classes in the field house, which was really cool when you're walking through there and you see players kind of sprinkled and peppered around in the field house on their online classes. And when a class wasn't in session, then going down on the floor and getting extra reps. I mean, they were in there constantly over there, which to me, I look back and I'm like, man, that's the way to do college. Online classes, go down there and get some reps in on the floor. It really didn't matter what time of day. There was always somebody in there getting work in. There's a book that we have all of our players read called The Confidence Code. It's a book that it starts out and it takes a deep dive into why females end up having less confidence than men and than guys. And they start out, this book is as elementary school kids, you don't see a difference in confidence in the genders. And then somewhere around middle school and early high school, you start seeing this separation with self-confidence. Well, as somebody who has 2 daughters and somebody that coaches females, that's a big problem. Because I'm wanting our players to be the most confident people on the planet. And the chapter 1 is titled "It's not enough to be good." And the first paragraph starts like this: "There's a quality that sets some people apart. It is hard to define, but easy to recognize. With it, you can take on the world. Without it, you live stuck at the starting block of your potential." And when I think about us reaching a potential and maxing out, and that's one of the goals that we have is when a player goes through their career, is we want them to be able to max out their potential. Potential on the court, potential off the court, academically, socially, all those things. You being able to max out. To finish this year with the national championship, the ultimate team accomplishment. Every single player on our team was vital to getting to that point. Going into our first match of the season, I said, this is our lineup. But if this is our lineup at the end of the season, I'll be highly disappointed, because that means that we've had players here that have accepted their lot in life. A couple of years ago, we started something called Adversity School as part of our preseason meeting. So examples of that would be, hundreds of things. You're on your way to a match and the bus breaks down. How are you going to handle that? You got a bad grade in a classroom that you found out earlier that day. Is that going to carry over to the rest of your life, or is it going to carry over to practice or to your match? Say that your significant other dumped you. How do you manage that? Your dog dies. It's cloudy day. You can't get your caffeine. Your coffee shop is closed down before a match. Whatever it is, how do you deal with adversity? And some of them are going to be little things, and some of them are going to be big things. But what we wanted to do is we wanted to establish a mindset that realizes adversity is going to present itself at some point, at many points. And we want to try and embrace it and know that we're going to be better prepared to handle it than anyone else around. It's going to be part of our DNA, if you will. We have a saying around our program: be an active participant in your own rescue, which basically means don't be a victim, help yourself. Well, the season had a lot of adversity to it, as most of them do. Our first big adversity hit with Danielle Hart, who was started the season, was on pace to be a first or second team All-American with the number she was having. Ends up tearing her ACL in practice. Week later at Maryland, we're opening up the Big Ten, and our strength coach right beforehand had a family member, a close family member that passed away. And then we get to Maryland, and one of our players is having some type of problems breathing. They rush her to the emergency room, and she has that day throat surgery. We end up losing that match to a team that, I don't know where they finished, about 11th in the conference. certainly not where you're expecting to be. But we had a ton of errors, and the talk was, well, all right, how are you going to respond? One of our players, Devin Robinson, who was an All-American the year before, she had negative 120, which is more errors, more negative things than positive things happening, which is not where we want to be. She didn't have a single block in 5 sets. How did she respond? She hit 909 the next night. She hit 514 over the next month. You know, that's how you respond. As a coach, that's way more important than the Maryland loss. You learn, get better, stronger, move forward. We had 14 different lineups on this season, 14 different starting lineups, which is an insane amount. The starting lineup that we went with in the NCAA tournament, the first time that we went with that lineup was against Nebraska, the last match, the last weekend of the regular season. So we went in the NCAA tournament playing that starting lineup for a total of 2 matches. We had Georgia Chibata tearing her ACL midway through the season, and then coming back after only missing 6 matches. She decides, I'm not going to get knee surgery. I'm going to go back out there and play. She's out for 6 matches. A couple matches in, she tears her plantar fascia, and is only out for a couple matches before she gets back in there. We started calling her the Black Knight. For those of you guys that are Monty Python, it's fans. It's only a flesh wound. So, the strength of our team became our ability to win in a lot of different ways, and this was a big time challenge as players, as quality of Danielle and the quality of Georgia, where we were losing them, but it was also Grace Loberg and Yulia Orzel, both of those guys playing the season with stress fractures in their legs. And so for a month, we were doing almost no jumping in practice. And you can kind of see it with our results. Even though we were winning, we weren't playing real well there in the middle, and we just kind of ramped it up right there toward the end. But those are the things that when you look back as people battling through adversity and kind of sticking together, it just brings so much more joy to what that accomplishment was. There's a video of Formula One racing pit stop that we showed during preseason, and it's unbelievable. I think there's like 24 people. It's a Formula race car driver that comes in the pit stop, and in just a few seconds, you see like 24 people. They all got their one job to kind of do to get that car out of there as fast as possible. It's an unbelievable video. And that's what we tried to do with our team. We wanted that mindset that there's a driver, but that driver doesn't get to win that race without all of these other people kind of doing their job and doing their job at a really, really high level and accepting their role. That was something I thought we did a pretty good job with our team. Moving forward, we lose a lot of really talented players that have been around a long time. Like I said, Dana Retke, the only 5-time first-team All-American in NCAA history in any sport. Because of COVID, she got that extra year. Probably will never happen again. That's a big player to lose. Sydney Hilley, who's a 3-time first-team All-American setter. Grace Loberg, Georgia Chibata, Lauren Barnes, All-American libero. So we lose a lot of really experienced, talented players. But we talked about, the standard's the standard, and that's what we're trying to do here. Is no matter who is in here, we're trying to win at the highest level possible, and we're trying to do it the right way. It's a very young team right now that we've got. We've been in the gym the past few months. We've got one player on our roster that's ever been through a spring, which is right now breaking the game down and going through techniques, and because of what COVID has done, and it interrupted our spring. We got one player that has ever been through this right now, and that's Danielle Hart, who's kind of on the shelf right now. So there's a lot of learning. We'll be young, most likely going with the two-setter system this next year. But we're excited about the talent we have in the gym right now. Anna Smrek was Final Four, player of the Final Four as a freshman, 6'9" freshman. And we'll have her back. Devin Robinson, who was a third-team All-American a year ago. Yulia Orzel, who was Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Jay Dimps, Danielle Hart, all those guys are returning. Caroline Crawford was an all Big 12 player that transferred here from Kansas. She's been in the gym, going to be a great addition. Then some new players that we got coming in. Sarah Franklin, first team all Big Ten player from Michigan State, probably one of the best outside hitters in the country, is transferring in here. Ella Roble will be a freshman from Chicago coming in. And then Golce Gudikin is probably one of the best liberos in the world for her age group. She's from Turkey, and she'll be here as preseason gets going. So we're excited about the young talent moving forward. Great kids that want to learn, that want to get better, and they want to kind of carve their own path. So to where things are right now, kind of the state of the program. More than welcome to take any questions anybody has. Yeah.
What's your background in playing volleyball?
My background?
Yeah.
Never played a game in my life. Yeah. You probably have more experience playing the game than I do. And you probably have a better vertical than I do. To tell the truth here. Yeah. Never played.
Oh, it's me? Okay. Can you just follow up on that? So how do you become a coach if you've never played the game? What qualifies you to be a coach?
Yeah, I could talk a big game and finally people say. I was a runner, and I was a middle school cross country coach my freshman or sophomore year in college. But I just fortunate to grow up in an area that was kind of the cradle of coaches, if you will, in our sport. In Muncie, Indiana, very small town, unbelievable success in this sport, great teachers, and got into it a little bit, and I became addicted. Could not get enough of it. I mean, every waking hour became to try to learn my craft. I just was doing high school and club, had zero thought about doing this as a career. It's just one of those things. You become passionate, and all of a sudden you look back 30 years later, and here you are. So yeah.
Name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Yeah.
For your athletes?
It's a game changer. The landscape of college athletics is totally different than what it was 3 years ago, and it's going to change massively. And so I try not to do a lot of judgment on things, because it just doesn't do you any good. This is where we're at right now. You got to find a way to manage the landscape and be better at it than anybody else. People transferring, open transfers, elite players for elite teams that are playing and all Americans. Now all of a sudden they want to go to another elite team is just stunning to me. A coach leaves a program, and all of a sudden their entire roster is in the portal wanting to go somewhere else. That's going to cause a lot of people to kind of figure out how to do this. My response, the way I look at it is, if players are leaving my program, then that's a me problem. I'm doing something wrong. I'm probably being a poor communicator, either during recruiting or while they're there on campus. And so, we've got to find rules for people. We've got to be great communicators so that they want to be a part of what we're doing. The name, image, and likeness, it's It's being utilized in a way that is enticing recruits and transfers. And there are people that are making really good money for this, off of this. Things that used to be illegal a year ago are now not only legal, but extremely welcome right now with the community's involvement with athletes. You see players that are, apartment buildings that are going put up on campus, and brand new apartment buildings, and they'll go to athletes and say, hey, well, you can all stay there for free. Put out a couple posts on your social media, and we'll get you a room in the top floor for the year. You're seeing those types of things. I think communities have to find ways to utilize athletes. Let me put it this way. The communities that figure out how to do this, you're going to see those athletic departments succeed better than those that don't figure that out. You just are. And so I don't know. I haven't figured out, we're not allowed to be involved in it as coaches, which or with athletic departments are not allowed to be in it. So it's you have young kids that are often, they're trying to find their way into this space, but it's certainly seems like it's here to stay. Yeah.
2 questions.
Yeah.
Did you go to Ball State?
I did go to Ball State, yeah.
And they did, we have a nephew who graduated from there and never heard of, majored in defensive football coaching. So, and he's doing quite well right now, which
Yeah.
is interesting when you said that, because I never thought about that with coaching. I
Yeah.
guess we learned that or something. Second question is, what happens to these athletes when they move on? We don't have an NBA, do we? They can't go pro.
Yeah, it's one of the most popular sports in the world, and we don't have a pro league here yet. It's I think it's coming. I think we'll have a pro league here within 2 years.
Wow.
And but right now if they want to continue playing, they've got to go overseas. Many of them are going over to Europe. That's Asia is certainly a possibility, and South America or Puerto Rico also have leagues. Dana Retke is in Italy right now. Lauren Carlini is in Turkey. Sydney Hilly was down in Turkey for about a month and a half. She's going to be leaving in about a month to play in Puerto Rico. We've got some other players that have been playing over there for the past handful of years. So you got to leave.
Teams, other places.
Yep. Yeah.
Not a question, just a comment. It took you about 10 or 15 minutes to really start talking about volleyball in your presentation.
Yeah.
You were talking about, striving for excellence, building resilience, and all that, which I suppose is true when you get to kind of in elite programs, either in college or the pros. That mental game, or how you respond and react, is probably as important as the physical skills you build with your players on the court. It just struck me. I'm sure it's no great insight, but it's that you see that as probably, I don't know if it's as important, but it is an important element in preparing your team for success.
I think if after the end of 4 or 5 years, and I tell all of our recruits this, everybody that comes in there with their families, if the only thing after 4 or 5 years that they're a better volleyball player, then we have failed. I think we've got an incredible opportunity and a laboratory to build life skills and to help them through things that better prepare them for life. Those are the things that gives, to me, meaning to the career that I'm in, rather than just coaching a sport. And so we do a lot of talking about that kind of stuff.
Your assistant coaches.
Yeah.
Want to talk about them?
Nah. Been around each other a long time. You know, our staff has been here since day one with me. You know, this is our 10th year. Brittany Dildine was, we coached 13 or 14 years together. She was assistant coach of the year. Gary White, we've been together for, I don't know, 11 or 12 years. Anne Marie Hickey was a great player here. And then afterwards joined our staff as well. Jess Williams is our director of operations. She played for me at Dayton and then came over here with us. That's one of the things that we've been that's allowed us to have the success we've had is that just not only those guys, but if you look at our strength coach and our athletic trainer and our academic people, that there are people that have been here almost the entire time. And so you're not having the massive turnover all the time where you're having to teach somebody else constantly. It's a huge part of our success.
Kelly, it was out in the news this last week about paying for grades.
Yeah.
And UW is going to be one of the first in the
Yeah.
Big Ten to do that. Can you comment a little bit about how that works?
I've been paying them for years. I don't need to say this, but that was clearly a joke. Need to protect my job. I don't know. It's a you're supposed to get. There are some things that it's like I look there and I'm like you're supposed to do that. You know, there was a you know, there was this old Chris Rock thing that he's talking about some people that are you know, bragging about some things that they don't do. You know, I don't beat my wife, you know, I don't go to jail. And it's like, you're not supposed to do those things. What do you want, a cookie? And so that part of it, what do you want, a cookie, is something that my 11-year-old gets irritated when I say that. You know, I made my bed. Well, what do you want, a cookie? It's you're supposed to make your bed. You're supposed to get good grades. You're supposed to stay eligible. You know, we've never been a program that is just trying to stay eligible academically. You know, you're at a school like UW, one of the best educations in the world. Take advantage of this thing. I mean, that's how we talk. And so we shouldn't just be getting by. We should be grabbing onto that. You know, so there's a part of it that is like, why are we paying for good grades? Now, there's another part of it is, well, if it's allowed, then let's do this. I mean, there's and so if it's going to be allowed, we've got to find a way to do this. There is a part of this of how much time that student athletes are investing, and they can't work. You know, they're not able to do that. And so I don't know. The pendulum is clearly swung. It's clearly swung. And so it's cool that we're on the front end of it. Is the way that I look at it is a department, because if you're not, you're going to get left behind, right? Yeah.
I'm curious if you do anything to prepare your team mentally for like the pressures of the game, to, you know, that not choke in key moments. Anything, particular strategies that you could have?
Well, number one, it's every day, you know, and it's one of the things. Every day means every day, and so you make a choice on whether you wake up in the morning and when you're in the weight room at 6 o'clock in the morning. Are you going to be dragging? Are you going to be, you know, there is did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? Or, you know, those are just things that allow you to just lower your expectations. So you pick and choose what mood that you're going to come in there with. And you know, the same with the practice gym. Are you going to have a bring it mentality? Let's go. And so I think there's an element of how you approach every single day that prepares you. The other thing is the Big Ten. You know, we're playing in front of, 8,000 fans every night in the field house, and you go and you play in front of that at Nebraska, you're playing in front of great crowds in Minnesota or Penn State or, some of the other places. And so one of the things that we talk about it is when you get to the Final Four, when you walk on the court, that you're going to know whether you're ready for the moment or not. And one of the things that we tell our players is that when you get there, you're going to know inside that you are ready, that everything that you've done, the work that you've done around the clock, how you mentally prepare yourself, how you approach the day, how you the Big Ten, that's going to give you confidence. I remember 3 years ago, Danielle Hart gets in there in their introductions, and afterwards, we lose to Stanford in the national championship match, and we're talking after the match. She said, "Man, you said something that when we go out there and we're playing in front of 18,000 fans and all the hoopla." She said, "Man, I walked out on that court. I've never felt more ready in my entire life." You're right. I didn't think about it when you were saying it, but when I got out there, I just knew. So it's not a speech right before. Those aren't the time for speeches. You're not going to change anything. It's what you're doing day to day.
There's one question online.
George?
You sort of answered this, Coach. First off, I think if you've never seen volleyball at this level, the level of athleticism is just beyond belief. But I think you probably know that. Yeah, you've placed a lot of emphasis on recruiting, and yet now you see people transferring in. How do you deal with that when you've already got people in the program, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in and potentially can pull a rug out from under them? How do you deal with that?
It's open dialogue. It's open. We tell people the truth. I think that's another thing. We don't talk about players behind their backs. I know when, a story I'll tell you is when we had Emmy Dodge here and Tiffany Clark was here, and then Lauren Barnes was thinking about transferring in here. And I brought all three of them in my office, and I said, "All right, here's the deal. I don't care who starts. I don't care who's the libero. I don't care about any of those things. That stuff will be decided. What I care about is you guys reaching your potential. That's what I care about. But if you guys can play together, we'll have the best backcourt in the country." The person that recruited Lauren Barnes the hardest on our team was Tiffany Clark. They played the exact same position. Lauren was coming in to compete with Tiff on that same position. Lauren, a year later, we brought in Jocelyn Boyer from Iowa, who's the starting libero for Iowa. Person that recruited her the hardest, the person I heard from first after she committed was Lauren Barnes, the most excited about that. I think that says that the culture is good when you're in those situations. I think we try to get rid of individual accolades as something that we're celebrating and more team success. And hopefully, we've got players that are wanting to bring in other talent. We talk about if I'm doing my job, I'm bringing people in there that every single day you feel like that you're having to compete. And so I don't know, but I think it starts with honesty. I think it starts with people know that you care about them for more as a person than you do as a volleyball player. And you got to be able to be crystal clear on what their roles are once those things start establishing. And then you've got to talk to them and saying, "Hey, don't settle in. Don't settle in on where you're at right now. Keep pushing for what you're wanting." And things evolve. So it can be tricky, but I think you got to have people with good character, and I think we try to recruit people that are with really good character.
I just want to say I'm really grateful
for the art of coaching that you described in your talk. I was listening to mine. And I wanted to ask, when you walk into a room of elementary students, a lot of other coaches, I don't care what they said about this, because I perceive it's a lot of hunter gathering, picking out what they perceive as physical attributes that who they're going to spend their time with. I was wondering if you go into an elementary school, how do you spend your time giving a little coaching to younger kids? What do you look at? What are the things that draw your attention?
What do I say to young kids?
Yeah, and in particular, are there distinctions that you make in terms of you see development, what you want to encourage?
Yeah, it's it's kind of interesting because I got an 11-year-old and I've got a 9-year-old, and so we're kind of in that space, and number one, you want to see kids having fun and enjoying what they're doing. I mean, there just isn't anything more important than that, and we're talking with them about it's be coachable, look them in the eye, what's your posture like, responding. We're constantly talking about that. Hard stuff is good, and we'll talk to them with the youngest ages when we're doing that. It's hard is hard. One of the things we try to get young kids to do, young kids, even young college kids, but all the way down, is sometimes hard is looked like as bad. And hard is not bad. Hard is just hard. Hard is difficult, but there doesn't need to be a negative connotation to that. And so embrace difficult. And we try to get that message to as young as possible and repeat it over and over and over again. And then the other thing, I was carpooling one of my daughters with a couple kids over there, and a couple of the players were in the back of just saying, I'm not any good at this. I'm not any good at that. And I'm like, no. Repeat what you just said and put the word yet on the end of it. And, the power of yet. And that's one of the things we talked about for years. We'd have our summer camps, and I asked one of our players, we'd have hundreds of kids at our camps, and we'd be in this classroom setting. And I'd be like, Grace, have you ever won a national championship? Well, what's going to be cool is that Grace is not going to be able to say yes, but what would come back at me would be not yet. And so, are you starting for us? Not yet. Have you been an All-American? Not yet. Are you a great server right now? Not yet. And so, trying to get players and kids at the youngest age level to start thinking about yet and the power behind that word. Appreciate the support, and hopefully we'll keep seeing a lot of you guys at the field house. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Coach. That was really interesting to hear about your philosophy and all the work. And of course, as a community, we're really excited for your team and for what the future holds. I wanted to let you know that we make a donation in your honor as well for all of our speakers to the End Polio Now Fund of Rotary International. So as a thank you for being here. Our speaker next week is Kelly Ruppel, who is the Executive Director of the Ronald McDonald House, and she's going to be speaking to us about the impact of the Ronald McDonald House on children's health in the community. So thanks everyone for being here today, and see you all next week.